Rain hammered against the kitchen window as I sat at the table, staring at my untouched coffee. It was past midnight on a Friday, and Emily had texted hours ago that she'd be home after a quick happy hour with her new coworkers. The clock on the microwave blinked 12:47. No key in the door. No follow-up message. My phone buzzed on the counter. I grabbed it too fast. A notification from her Instagram story. A blurry shot of neon lights, champagne flutes, and laughing faces I didn't recognize. The caption read, "Living my best life." I set the phone face down and rubbed my eyes. The front door finally opened at 1:12. She stepped inside, raincoat dripping, cheeks flushed from cold or alcohol or both. Her hair was damp, curled tighter than usual, and she smelled like wet pavement and someone else's cologne. Something sharp and expensive. "Hey," she said, kicking off her boots. She didn't look at me right away. "Hey," I answered. "You okay?" I was getting worried. She laughed, a little too loud. "Worried? I told you I was going out with the team. It just ran long." I nodded slowly. "You said you'd be home by 10. She shrugged off her coat and hung it on the hook. "Plans change, Alex. God, do we have to do this every time I go out?" I stood up, pushing the chair back. "I'm not doing anything. I just waited up because you said 10. She rolled her eyes and walked past me toward the bedroom. "I'm an adult. I don't need a curfew." The words stung more than I expected. We'd been together 4 years, living together for 2. I'd always been the one who remembered to text when plans shifted, who checked in if I was running late. It felt fair to expect the same. "I'm not giving you a curfew," I said quietly. "I just like knowing you're safe." She stopped in the hallway and turned. "And I like having a night where I'm not being monitored." Is that so terrible? Monitored. The word landed heavy. I'd never checked her phone, never demanded locations. I just asked questions when she came home hours later than planned, dressed for a nightclub instead of drinks at a pub. "Who were you with?" I asked. "People from work. New hires. Clients. You don't know them." I nodded again. "Okay." She stared at me for a second, waiting for more. Anger, maybe, or pleading. When nothing came, she huffed and disappeared into the bedroom. I stayed in the kitchen until the shower started running. Then I sat back down and listened to the rain. It wasn't the first time. Over the past year, since her promotion to senior project lead, the late nights had become routine. The vague plans, the new friends with cryptic group chats, the way her phone now lived in her hand, screen angled away from me. I tried to adapt. I cooked less elaborate dinners because she rarely made it home in time. I stopped planning weekend trips because she always had work events. I told myself it was temporary. Success came with a social price. I could be patient, but patience has limits. The next morning, she was bright and apologetic over coffee. "I'm sorry I snapped last night. Work's been insane. The new campaign launch is killing me." I smiled and said it was fine, because that's what you do when you love someone. But something small inside me shifted. 3 weeks later, it happened again. She texted at 7. Running late. Client dinner turned into drinks. "Home by midnight." I replied, "No worries. Be safe." Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. 2. At 2:30, the door opened. She stumbled in slightly, giggling at something on her phone. Her blouse was untucked, lipstick faded. She froze when she saw me on the couch, light still on, book closed on my lap. "You're still up?" she asked. "Couldn't sleep?" I said. She sighed and dropped her purse. Alex, come on. I had one drink too many with the team. It's not a crime. I didn't say it was. Then why the interrogation face? I stood up slowly. I'm not interrogating you. I'm just here. She crossed her arms. You're always just here. Waiting. Watching. It's exhausting. The room felt colder. I wait because I care. Maybe you should care a little less, she snapped. I'm 29. I don't need a babysitter. I took a breath. I'm not babysitting. I'm your partner. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Partner? Partners trust each other. Partners don't sit up all night timing how late the other person gets home. I looked at her, really looked. The woman I'd met in grad school, who used to text me from across campus just to say she missed me. The one who cried in my arms when her dad got sick. The one who said I made her feel safe. That woman wasn't standing in front of me. I do trust you, I said quietly. I just don't feel trusted back. She threw her hands up. This again. God, you're so needy sometimes. Needy. Another word that cut deeper than it should have. She walked to the bedroom. I'm going to bed. I have an early meeting. I stayed on the couch until dawn. The final night came on a cold Tuesday in November. She'd said she was grabbing dinner with Lauren and a few others after a late meeting. Home by 10, maybe 11:11 past. Midnight. 1:AT120. My phone lit up with a text. Still out. Things got fun. Don't wait up. I stared at the message for a long time. Don't wait up. I set the phone down and walked to the window. Rain again. The streetlight reflected in puddles like broken glass. I went to the bedroom and opened the closet. My side was still organized, shirts hung by color, shoes in rows. Hers had spilled over, dresses and heels taking up more space than ever. I pulled out the large duffel bag I'd bought for a hiking trip we never took. Then I started packing. Not everything, just what was mine. Clothes, books, my grandfather's watch, the external hard drive with my photos and writing, my gaming headset, the cast iron skillet I'd seasoned myself. I worked in silence. No music, no rushing, every item placed with care. By 3 a.m., 3 bags and 2 boxes sat by the door. I took a post-it note from the kitchen drawer and wrote, "Gone for good." No explanation required. I stuck it to the fridge, right at eye level. At T4:15, I called my sister, Jenna. "Hey," I whispered when she answered, voice thick with sleep. "I need a place to crash for a few days." She didn't ask questions. Doors unlocked. Couch is yours. I loaded the car in the dark, rain soaking my hoodie. When the last box was in, I stood in the empty living room for a moment. 4 years of memories lived here. Movie nights on that couch, cooking together on Sundays. Falling asleep to her breathing beside me, I turned off the lights and locked the door behind me. The new apartment was a 1-bedroom above a quiet bakery, 15 minutes across town. Jenna helped me carry boxes up the narrow stairs at dawn. "You sure you don't want to talk about it?" she asked as we set the last one down. I shook my head. "Not yet." She hugged me and left. I unpacked slowly over the next days. Books on a small shelf. Clothes in a smaller closet. The skillet on a tiny stove. My phone stayed silent at first. Then, on the 3rd day, the calls began. Unknown numbers. Voicemails I didn't listen to. Texts from Lauren. "What did you do? Emily is destroyed. Call her." I blocked the number. A week later, an email. Subject: "We need to talk, Alex. You can't just disappear like this. We share a lease. There are bills, furniture, things we bought together. This is immature and cruel. I deserve an explanation. At the very least, Respond about practical matters. Emily. I forwarded the email to our landlord with a short note. As of November 14th, I have permanently vacated the apartment. All responsibility for the lease now falls to Emily Carter. Please remove me from all documentation. Attached, signed letter of relinquishment that I logged out of the shared bill accounts. Changed passwords on everything we'd ever linked. Her reply came fast. You can't do this. We need to discuss. This isn't fair. I didn't respond. The voicemail came 2 weeks later, from a number I didn't recognize. Her voice was shaky, raw. Alex? It's me. Please pick up. I came home and everything was gone. Your books, your clothes, your stupid Skillet. Even the coffee mug I hated. The note. God, that note. I didn't mean it like that. I was angry. I was stressed. The new job, it changed me. Okay? I got caught up in the attention, the nights out, feeling wanted. But it wasn't real. You were real. You are real. Please just tell me where you are. Tell me why you did this. I just need to understand. I miss you so much it hurts to breathe. I listened once, then deleted it, blocked the number. The last encounter came 3 months later. I was at the farmer's market on a Saturday morning, picking out apples, when I heard my name that I turned. She stood 10 feet away, thinner than before, dark circles under her eyes. Her hair was shorter. She wore a coat I didn't recognize. Alex, I nodded. Emily. She stepped closer. I've been looking for you. I know. Her eyes searched my face. You look good. Calm. I am. She swallowed. I didn't expect that. I waited. I was awful, she said quietly. I know that now. I took you for granted. I thought you'd always be there, no matter how I acted. I said things I didn't mean. I wanted freedom, but I didn't want to lose you. I shifted the bag of apples to my other hand. You didn't lose me, I said. You told me the rules. I followed them. Her face crumpled. It wasn't supposed to be like that. It was just an argument. No, I said gently. It was a declaration, and I respected it. Tears filled her eyes. I hate what I became. I hate that I hurt you. I hate that you're gone. I looked at her for a long moment. I'm not gone, I said. I'm just not there anymore. I stepped around her and walked away. She didn't follow. Some nights, I still feel the echo of what we had. The warmth of her hand in mine during long drives. The way she laughed at my terrible jokes. But the ache is quiet now. Manageable. I cook for one. I read late into the night. I go hiking alone and don't text anyone my location. That I've started writing again. Stories, not just work emails. That I've made new friends who don't know the old version of me. And when I come home to my small, bright apartment, the silence isn't heavy. That it's mine. That I kept the skillet. It makes the best eggs. And every time I use it, I remember, I don't owe anyone an explanation for choosing peace. Not anymore.